Welcome to Newsworthy Stories with Jacqueline Jimenez. As you can see with me, I have a young, awesome entrepreneur, filmmaker. Yes, Matthew Kaufman is joining me from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Hello, Matthew. Thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be on here with you.
I have to tell you, you've already may have seen some of his work. I have shared it once before, but then I saw a second piece that Matthew produced. He is a videographer, a producer, and he's part of the team at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. And which, if you follow them at all, it's WMSD. So, can you tell us who you are, what you're doing, and why I'm interested in what you're doing?
Gotcha. So as she's already mentioned, my name is Matthew Kaufman. I'm a student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and I'm a part of our school's TV and film crew, WMST TV, and I make news stories, short films. A lot of it's local stuff, stuff about our band, stuff about whatever's going on campus, just any important events surrounding our school and community.
And what caught my attention was we did all this coverage on Margie Stoneman Douglas, the Eagle Regiment going and participating in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Tons of coverage, from the media. And then, I produced a story and then I discovered your story. And I was like, oh my goodness, Matthew. I mean, you have such an eye for storytelling that it really blew my mind. And from talking to some other people on your team and the media,
Mm.
you made quite a sacrifice to cover it. So, can you talk about what you were thinking when you started to document Margie Stoneman Douglas making history, performing in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade?
Okay, so it was around summertime, and my brother Spencer, who's in the band, he's going to Macy's, and he kind of told me early before, like earlier than he was supposed to. So I kind of already knew a little bit, and I'm like, hey, this would make a great story because I felt as if our band wasn't covered enough. Previously, they went to they were at London Day Parade. They've done some other great stuff, and it's just never covered in our school newspaper or just by anybody else at the school. So I thought it would be a good story. I didn't know what it would turn into, but I knew I had a ticket to New York City, and I was gonna watch them perform because my family had planned to go up and help them set up and just watch them and support my brother.
And exactly, I mean, you planned this out, and from the videos then, and we're going to show that
Mhm.
story again because I really want you to talk about what we're about to see
Okay.
because you really have this timeline that I think that businesses can actually benefit from. So can you kind of walk me through that timeline of where you decided you wanted to start that story and then how you were thinking, how am I going to end this story?
Okay, well, so I knew the process of the band getting to Macy's would be extremely long. It didn't feel long because it was fun and it was a good experience. But I knew for it to be a good documentary, I needed to show every step of the way. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of band documentaries. I studied band documentaries, and it's kind of they just throw you into this jumbled mess of whatever is going on. And I also kind of just wanted to show how much work is put into something like that. And I feel again that it's not covered. So I went through the process of showing all of their band practices, their performances. I showed them getting to New York City. I showed them practicing in New York City. I showed the long hours, the early mornings, and just the final performance. And I kind of wanted it to wrap it up in a positive manner, because this is a positive documentary. The band did something amazing, um, possibly one of the greatest things, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School has done. Not many high schools get to go perform in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and millions of people watch that in the United States and around the world. So it just needed to be, I needed to cover it in the way that it was being set up and formulated, I guess. You can't not show the practices and then just jump to the performance. You have to see everything that goes into it so you know how special it is and how special it is to the band and our community that they got such an opportunity.
Now you talk about something special. It sounds like not only did I recognize it and anyone who has seen it, but can you talk a little bit about before we go into the actual story, talk a little bit about who else has noticed it and the recognition that you're getting from a very unique group.
So for the band documentary March to Macy's, I received a lot of feedback from the film community, which includes some other high schools throughout Broward County, Florida, Miami-Dade. It's been spread around. I received recognition from my teachers, my, I guess you could call him mentor, this guy I did an internship under. The band doc just kind of has spread throughout. It hasn't made it anywhere far yet, but it has been selected for some pretty big like competitions. Recently, it got nominated for a Suncoast Student Production Award, which is from the organization called NATIS, which stands for National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Those are the people who do the big Emmys for action movies and whatnot. So recently, that got nominated. It's been selected for some other festivals and whatnot, but that's the most notable thing it's been awarded for so far.
And I love your modesty, okay? Because, that's a really big deal. Because at your age or for the films that you're creating, you're basically being nominated for an Emmy. The same way any other film outside of, your class, if you will,
Mhm.
if you were doing a film, you would be nominated for an Emmy. And that's what I'm trying to help you to understand that that is a huge honor, to be recognized by them. So let's take a moment and actually watch this piece of art and see what Matthew Kaufman shared through his eyes when Marjorie Stoneman Douglas performed at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
I believe that this program is one of the finest high school marching bands in the country. We look at high schools, colleges, cultural groups, you name it, and it's led us here to South Florida today.
It is a big honor,
And it is with great pleasure that I announce today that for the first time in this school's history,
This is probably one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing that's ever happened to this band program.
the Stoneman Douglas High School Eagle Regiment has been selected to represent the great state of Florida and perform.
And it's an accolade that not many programs in the country can post.
In New York City in the 2023 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
We knew that that they were applying to be in the parade, but we didn't know for sure. We didn't have any information about it, so everyone was really excited.
When we first found out, it was such a huge shock for us because it was something that our band director had talked about so many times, but we didn't actually think that it was going to happen to us and that we would be selected to perform. And the announcement was huge. I mean, we had a representative come down and it was all like confetti and streamers, and it was just such a big surprise.
So for Macy's, we actually started it before our competition season ended. We kind of got a look at the music. We started working on the music some in class. Then we started to stage the show outside. And then we really started to figure out that we needed more time.
So we had our marching band show that we had to make and do competitions with, which is completely separate from the Macy's show. So right after we did our BOA regional in Orlando, we moved straight into Macy's. We switched gears into all of the production, learning the music, the visual stuff, and it was kind of offsetting at first because we just finished doing the show, and it was like, what do we do now?
Guys, it's so close. You hear me? It's so close. I had a yes in there. Please, one more.
I think everybody realizes that it's a much bigger deal than we originally thought. I mean, marching in a parade, that's pretty straightforward, but when you have to do that production at the end, it's like a mini version of your competition show. And it's got to be really detail-oriented for it to be all that. The first one was awesome, a lot of excitement. We're staging the show. We use an app called UDB, Ultimate Drill Book. So everybody goes on there and we'll say, go set up page 1.
Right, we're working towards page 5, which is where our cover dogs are.
And then they march it, then they simulate playing the music, so they kind of sing it, and then eventually we start to play it, and then we kind of build on it. The difference though is like we're not on a football field, we're on a tarp.
So the biggest issues is that like on a football field there are like yard lines that we can go off of, but on the actual tarp that we're going to be using, there's not really lines, so you just kind of have to line yourself with other people. So it's a lot more trust in each other and making sure that other people are right so that way you can fix your own dog.
I just know we've spent the past few months just strictly working on our competition season, and I'm really excited to see where we can take this, but it's going to be a long road ahead of us.
Then it's about individual practice, okay, and what you're doing outside of here, you know? And when you get together in rehearsal, it's rehearsal for everybody, not individuals. And when we're having to stop because musicians can't play their music, or maybe some people forgot the counts, the count structure, or maybe they're just being high school kids and not listening when we receive the instructions of what the rep is going to be.
Immediately after our first practice, we realized we had a lot to focus on. Doing a stage show compared to a marching show on a field is completely different. There's no guidelines, the spacing is completely different, and the way that all the different players are moved across like the space makes everything sound different. So we have to work on rebalancing everything completely.
Practice today was honestly not so great, and that's kind of been the theme recently. Recently we've just had a lot of like talking and performance issues and just not listening on the field. So we really just have to hammer down. It's not like this is an unfixable issue. We just really have to work together and make sure that everybody's tracking and everybody's on the same team.
So those are always the struggles. You know, it's like we always tell our band students, it's very easy to get from here to here in the band world. Anybody can do it, okay? But it's about getting from here to up here.
So when we first started rehearsing, I don't think anyone understood the significance of going to perform in the Macy's parade. And now that we're, I think, a week away from today, everyone realizes that this is a big deal. Everyone's going to be watching.
So the issues we face today, people who don't care. This place is like a family to a lot of us, and we all put a lot of passion and a lot of time into what we do here. So the people who don't care and the people who don't practice and the people who don't know their stuff, they kind of make everyone upset and they throw off the vibe around here.
Everybody in any performing discipline, you hit kind of a wall at a certain point, or let's say that peaking hits you, and that's where your design team and your directors and your staff have to be really creative to tap the most potential out of each individual.
For next practice, our goal is just to be more honed in and to focus more. A lot of what I said our issues are focus. People aren't paying attention and people aren't listening, and you learn something one rep and then you forget it the next one, and the directors are saying the same things over and over again. So once we get everybody locked in and on the same page, that's all it's going to take to make next practice even better.
Your sounds have to be much better than they just were. Parker, stop talking. When you turn your horn to the front, we got to be cognizant.
So sometimes it comes through some tough love, sometimes it comes through some added video assignments, and some degree of added pressure on everybody to not let their team down, and they have to, you know, get their individual stuff in order so that it makes the big thing great. So where we are now, the show's already all done, and it's like now it's just putting icing on the cake. You know, we're just really trying to add in all the little things that make the big thing great.
I can definitely tell like a lot of people are realizing like the etiquette we need to have and the focus we need to have on the field. I think that it's getting better. And as people are getting better, it's just one or two people just sticking out now. So it's really obvious when someone's not buying into it.
So that's kind of where we are right now. 3 rehearsals left before we leave, and a performance in full uniform this Thursday night. So a lot of excitement, you know. So those are they kind of parallel the first rehearsal and where we are now. The in-between is what's a little different.
We definitely improved on just moving together as a group in a smaller space, because we usually have like a whole football field, and now we only have like the small part of Herald Square for 162 people. We also improved on just music overall.
Our show has gotten exponentially better today. It was kind of a jumbled mess. You know, we've only had a couple practices with it so far, but I think today everyone was trying harder than they have before, and it was clearly an improvement. Everyone was happier, the practice seemed to go by faster, and I think if we just keep going on this track, it's gonna be a lot better in the future.
We are very honored to be in the parade, and we are just wishing for great weather. We're wishing for an incredibly memorable performance out of our students. Like, it's an incredible family, and that's why we got the nod to perform in this parade, and that's why I think that everything's lining up to be an incredible, life-changing experience for everyone.
I'm really excited. I love New York. I've been to New York before, but going as a group is going to be really exciting.
It is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I can't even believe that I have the chance to perform in New York City on Thanksgiving in the Macy's Day Parade.
I am very confident that we're going to do a great job at Macy's. The Eagle Regiment, and especially Stoneman Douglas, we've got a lot to show to the world, and I'm sure we're going to do that on Thanksgiving Day.
Parade. Can't wait to see you guys on TV. Have a great time. Happy Thanksgiving.
So the day of the performance, 2 a.m., okay, 2 a.m. Thursday morning, we will all be in the lobby of the hotel dressed, and we will make our way to 34th Street, Herald Square, and we have a quick 10-minute rehearsal with NBC. It's going to be the first time that we get on that street, and so we'll be able to go out, practice our on a couple of times to make sure that they find that first set the right way, and then we'll run the production a couple of times, hopefully, and then we'll run the exit a couple of times, and then if anything seems a little strange, we can go ahead and just play that little section just to make sure that it works out. It gives the NBC people a chance to see what they want to focus on in our production. It gives us a chance to rehearse in the actual venue. So it's like a 10-minute rehearsal. They call that the overnight rehearsal. After that rehearsal happens on that Thursday morning, maybe we're looking at, I don't know, 4 in the morning now, something like that. We're going to go to our breakfast spot, and we will eat breakfast, and then we'll get back on the bus, and we'll head out to Central Park to the staging area of the parade and wait. Congratulations to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Eagle Regiment. Guys, you have made history again, and I know we keep saying that, but you have made history again. Congratulations. Enjoy tonight. Happy Thanksgiving. One of the things that we've spoken about since we came to MSD 5 years ago was putting our program in our school in a positive light, so that when MSD comes up in conversation, maybe it will be about the way that they performed in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
It's been an incredible journey to come so far in such a short time. Our efforts were undoubtedly worth it, and performing on that national stage was the biggest thing our band has ever done. These memories will definitely be cherished by the Eagle Regiment forever.
So there you have it. Now that you've seen his work, you kind of understand why I had to stop and reflect on what you've done, Matthew. Really amazing work.
It's a great documentary. It's something that you couldn't find elsewhere unless you happen to be another student whose schools got selected for such a thing. You need to see stuff like this through the student eye. No news organization could have followed the band throughout that whole process. Of course, they could have been there at the start and they could have been there at the finish, like they were. But they can't be at every school practice. They can't do that. They don't have the student eye like I did and like the people who helped me, which I also want to give credit to Alex Scott and Cassie Tarr, who assisted me through this whole process. The documentary could not have been done without their help.
Well, I have to tell you, Matthew, had I known you were documenting this piece, I would not have. That's how thorough I thought you did, because I did my own piece from the things that I saw and some of the practices and some of the coverage, for more from a media standpoint, the media coverage that, I was able to generate for them, but also, some of the behind the scenes, the secret performance that they did with the parents that could not go, things like that. But had I known you were doing all that, I would not have even, I would have just taken a few pictures, you know, and ran your story, because that's how thorough your story was. Now, I know you also just recently shared another story, which I thought, wow, you really have that gift. Can you talk a little bit about that story? And then, well, more so, let's go to really, what do you want to do with your work first?
Um,
Ultimately, talk about what you ultimately want to do.
so for the work that I've already created, I just want it to be shown to the people who it's kind of made for, like the band doc. I hope all the band kids saw it, the band parents, any students joining the band, or who have thoughts about wanting to join the band because maybe they'll be like, oh, this is cool. They've done this, they've done that. And the recent story I've just created, I hope that the community of Parkland, Coral Springs, students who go to the school, who have been to the school, who are coming to the school, I just hope they get to see that kind of thing and understand what's going to be happening this summer. But in the future, I hope to continue to work kind of in this field, in this industry. I hope to break through into it and just continue making films, making documentaries throughout college, getting into the industry, and then hopefully having a solid job doing that. That's my end goal.
And I do have to tell you, and I know I mentioned this to you
Mhm.
yourself, but I had a selfish reason for inviting you on, and that was to let other businesses know of your talent. And I know you might not stay in the South Florida area. I know you may be going to Central Florida.
Mhm.
I believe that's the idea, but you are within reach. And a lot of times when we go to conferences, we being people in business owners, entrepreneurs, when we go to to these conferences, they often say, hey, connect with somebody from the media department at your local high school. And when people can see the type of work that you're producing, what they're asking you to do is so much easier, you know? And I think that that is a something to think about as you go forward, because it's a business opportunity for you, and it benefits small businesses, middle-sized businesses who may not have a huge marketing department, but
Mhm.
for you, it would still be valuable, to support you in school and everything else. Plus, you'd be building a resume with showing what you can do from a corporate standpoint.
Yeah.
You've already got, hmm, you're so far ahead of the game in my eyes that I think construction in particular, because of the way you timeline your story, showing that construction from start to finish, looking at how that building comes about, that stuff is fascinating to watch. But it's just something to think about. I know film is your love, and horror stories maybe
Mhm.
might be something. I know that you like horror stories, so that's cool. But we want you to be able to check out, some of the other stories that Matthew has produced. And along the bottom on the ticker, it's his Instagram and his YouTube channel. Those are his addresses, if you will. Anything else that we should know, Matthew?
Um, I think what makes these stories so special, in the way that they're timelined, is just the impact of these things. I hear what you're saying about construction work and all of that, but what truly makes these stories special is that they mean something to somebody. The 1200 being torn down, that means something to every student at Douglas. That means something to every teacher, even if they weren't here on that day, or they were here on that day. It's just about what it means to people that makes showing the processes of things special, and that's
And
what makes it enjoyable for me to do it. You know what I mean? If it's not impacting someone, then I guess I don't find doing something like that enjoyable.
okay. Can you talk a little bit, since I was gonna kind of hold it off and let them
Mm.
go look at it, but talk about the 1200 building for those who are not from this area. Talk about what that story is and where they can see it on your YouTube channel.
Gotcha. So, as most people know, there was a tragedy that took place at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas 6 years ago. We lost 17 lives, and the building where that all happened has stood for continuous another 6 years. And after all that time, the trials and stuff are done like that, and they're ready for it to come down. And they announced over this summer the building will be torn down. So I kind of did a school news story just about the building coming down and the impact that it's going to have on teachers and students. It was kind of also mentioned in there what some of the students and teachers might want to be put up. We talk about how it felt pointless to keep the building up that long, to do walkthroughs, and there hadn't been much change because of those walkthroughs. We kind of just cover the impact of the building. We covered the impact that the building's had over the past 6 years, and it's nice. It kind of just shows you a little bit of everything if you're interested in knowing more about why the building continued to stand for 6 years.
Okay. Since we're talking about it, I will go ahead and I will share that story as well. And but go to Matthew's YouTube channel, so you can not only see it but be able to share it, because he has the links for both the Macy's Day Parade story that he produced, as well as the story about the MSD building that will come down, or is scheduled to come down this summer. Matthew, you are extraordinary. I'm looking forward to seeing other stories that you're going to produce. Please keep us posted on the stories you produce so we can share it, because they are thought provoking. They do make you think, and you can see all of that in your work. I do hope some people do reach out to you though, because I think that you will be an incredible asset, especially maybe some of the community outreach that businesses do. Maybe not construction, but some of the community aspects that the partnerships that how they impact the community. That might be a different aspect. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Every day, students and faculty go about their daily lives at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in the shadow of the locked-up 1200 building. The building has remained a looming reminder on campus of the tragedy that occurred.
There's an active shooter situation in South Florida.
Possible shots fired at Stoneman Douglas High School.
More than 100 gunshots were fired
in the
Friday.
Parkland School massacre.
I feel like the presence of the old building kind of creates an air of like discomfort in this corner of the school.
I don't like being over there. I don't like seeing it because it does remind me of what happened on that day.
The building has remained as evidence for trials revolving the incident. 6 years later, the building is finally being torn down.
As a government teacher and someone who understands law, I understand why the 1200 building was kept up, but I believe as soon as the case ended, it should have been taken down immediately. I know they can't just, empty the school and it's going to take some time to knock it down and clean up the debris, but the sooner the better, and I feel like it's taken way too long to remove the building.
I think the building should have been torn down much earlier. I don't feel it's necessary at this point, and it's just a constant reminder, especially for those people who were in the building that day, we all lost people if we worked here, and it did affect our community. I think we all want to just move forward and move on.
While it's been kept up, politicians, government officials, and family members of victims have done walkthroughs of the building in an attempt to campaign for gun control. While many feel the building should remain up for more walkthroughs, others find the walkthroughs ineffective.
Although the idea of having these walkthroughs might sound good, it hasn't really proven to do anything for our country or for our state policy-wise, and it's just kind of left this little attraction for certain political figures to walk through to make it seem like they care about gun control as an issue or just about the issues that happen in this community.
As its demolition nears, there has been much discussion over what should be put in the building's place.
It's very controversial to decide what's going to be built on the building where it stands. I think there may be some kind of garden or park. I don't think there should be a memorial there. There's memorials elsewhere throughout the school. I don't think every kid needs to be reminded of what happened everywhere they go in the school.
The students are ready for it to come down. We're ready for something to go in its place.
Taking down the crumbling building is sure to mark the start of a new chapter of growth within the members of the school and community.
Every morning when I drive to school to get into the senior lot, the first thing you see is this building, and it's molding and it's decaying, and I wasn't here on that day obviously, so I can't even imagine how it must personally affect some of the teachers at this school who have to see that every day. It's just a mark on this school that we don't need to be seeing, and the people who say that the building should stay up don't have to deal with coming into school every day and looking at it and having it straight in your vision every time you walk around the school, so they could never understand what it means to us to have it taken down.